This is CBC Here and Now.
If you have been tested, it may take 72 hours or more for your test results to be available.
So stay at home unless you need to go out for essential. The virus only moves when you do.
Informal social gatherings should not take place, either outdoors or indoors.
Dozens of new COVID cases today, almost all in the eastern region.
Thousands still getting tested at drive-through sites, but what about those who don't have a car?
After a busy start to the week, things start to quiet down, but temperatures are going to cool down as well.
Well, given all the COVID health restrictions, the city of Cornerburg is already considering a mail-in vote for the next municipal election.
Because I think there's opportunities to innovate, have more advanced polls, electronic voting potentially. There's a lot of options out there now.
I'll give you all the details.
Welcome to Here and Now. I'm Carolyn Stokes.
And I'm Peter Cowan. We begin tonight with an update on the COVID-19 situation in this province. A significant number of new cases tonight. Let's break down those numbers for you. So there are 44 new cases of COVID-19 in the province. We should mention that 10 of those are presumptive cases from previous days that have now been confirmed. So there are an additional 21 new presumptive cases today. So these are cases where people have tested positive on rapid tests, but they're now still waiting for the central lab to actually confirm those results. So it's not until that extra testing that they'll show up into that big 44 daily number that we're talking about there. So in total now, there are 57 presumptive cases that still need to be confirmed. With 3 people recovering from the disease, there are now 338 active cases of COVID-19. So some people who were tested Saturday say they still haven't received their results back. Today, the Minister of Health says that's because some of the tests have been sent to a lab in Moncton, as the local lab deals with a big surge in testing. In the last day, a record 2,500 tests were completed. John Haggie says it should be faster to get results soon.
The time to get your test result now should be less than 72 hours. It may be longer for confirmation of a presumptive negative test, because some of these we're using surge capacity from the federal laboratory in Atlantic Canada rather than doing them in-house. But given the fact our numbers now of testing are no way significantly different from the capacity of the lab, that turnaround time should fall further.
The testing centers are all drive-through operations. That makes it faster and safer to process people, but what about if you don't have a car? Public Health has been telling people to get a ride with a friend or take a taxi. That could make getting a test expensive and risks spreading the disease to other people. Jalila Sitman said she was shocked when she was told those were her options.
I had to refuse the appointment, which was set up for that evening, and was asked to take a taxi, or if I could take a taxi, or if I had anybody who could drive me, which my mother is elderly, so she wouldn't be able to drive me. And I was floored about being asked the taxi part, because, that would put many people at risk, not just myself and the taxi driver. Definitely the mobile screening unit, but I would also like to see it a little quicker, because, like I said, with the evening appointment that I had to refuse, I would have been seen already been tested and be able to get back to my normal life. Whereas now I have to wait, and she said it could be a couple more days.
So she is waiting for a public health nurse to come and give her that test. That was only presented as an option after she pushed back. But why isn't there a system in place to make sure people without cars can easily get a test? Well, I asked health officials today, and they said they're working on it.
I can't speak to that specifically, but I do know that those conversations are happening to address that particular group of people, and so we hope to have a solution for that sometime soon.
There were discussions as recently as yesterday about how to do that for people who had challenges with mobility. We don't want anyone to have a barrier to a test. I think the challenge over the last 3 or 4 days has simply been one of capacity within Eastern Health to be everywhere, doing everything, given the backlog.
Well, it's an essential service in any municipality, and right now the St. John's Regional Fire Department is coping with a serious blow to its ranks. But as Here Now's Terry Roberts reports, the woman in charge is not ready to pull any alarms.
We were made aware this morning that one of our employees tested positive.
The Regional Fire Department has a full-time complement of 176 firefighters, a dozen part-timers, but many are not available for duty.
For this one case today, we have 16 gone into self-isolation. And prior to that, for personal reasons, we had 20 other members in isolation as well. So the number to date is 36 firefighters.
The city announced this afternoon that a frontline firefighter has tested positive for the coronavirus. That triggered a series of measures to try and prevent an outbreak. Those found to be contacts of the positive case were ordered into isolation. The Brookfield and Paradise stations were temporarily shut down in order to undergo enhanced cleaning. A truck at Kent's Pond was also temporarily removed from service. But the chief says there's no increased threat to public safety.
As of right now, we are still working with the complement that we have, and we're confident that we'll continue, and you deal with it as it comes up. We've had no issues in getting them to come in and cover shifts for us in order for us to keep our services as normal. So as of right now, we have not had any issues with staffing up to the levels that we need to.
The chief says the department is committed to following public health protocols. She doesn't believe any mistakes were made, and right now believes the department can handle the situation.
As of right now, we have not seen any issue or reason to reach out for additional resources.
Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, the province's return to alert level 5 is not slowing down vaccine delivery in Sheshatshiu. Leadership in the Innu community expects to have about 80% of adults fully vaccinated by early next week, but that does not mean an immediate return to normal life.
We're not looking at the vaccine as a cure. We're still following the guidelines, what we're given from the province, that we're level 5. We totally understand that. And just because we're in level 5 and we got the vaccines, it doesn't mean we're not following the rules. We're still strict as the rules as we were in March. The people that's on the island, my community members, is I get the family to contact them, and the health authorities here in Sheshatshiu to contact them and let them know, like, we're still following the rules back home. Everything's still the same, the kind of rules they have on the island. I think we had an idea where we were aiming, because the numbers were going extremely high on the island. So people coming back from St. John's, they're isolating for 14 days. And we do have it's not a lockdown, but it's just precautionary measurements we've taken by the gate. They'll ask where you're coming from and your name. I didn't want to do a fully lockdown because it causes a lot of stress. And I didn't want to cause any more stress as what it is now. The clinic is aware of it, and the community members are aware of it. It's a small town, so if someone's coming in from St. John's, we'll definitely know. And but I'm glad we didn't have to enforce the RCMP, which is good. I think that's a bonus there, because we didn't want to use that route, and I don't want to use that route. In Aboriginals, they're so used to groups, and they're so used to like outposts, like going out to the country. And that's what I'm working on now as we're speaking, is our outposts, is to get the people that wants to go to outposts, give them their outposts, because they're saying they can be in their own bubble, in their, either at their cabin or out in Park Lake or out in different countries where our norm every year is to go out there. So everybody feels like they're safer out there, that they're not connecting with others. They grew up like that, right? So they're used to it. I really like to thank the people that's actually following our message to them, and I think it's important that people realize that this is serious, because we don't know, we're just taking it by day as well. So we're just trying our best to get the message out there to our members and to our elders, and I'd just like to thank everybody that's participating and being patiently with us.
And thanks to Here Now's Garrett Barry for that story. The rollout of vaccines to Canada's Indigenous peoples is going smoothly, according to the Minister of Indigenous Services. Mark Miller says the National Advisory Committee on Immunization continues to rank the Indigenous population as a priority group for vaccinations.
NACI has now expanded guidance for Stage 2 to all Indigenous adults who are not offered vaccines in Stage 1. This is important, and it reaffirms the standards set for provinces to follow these guidelines, including the prioritization as people contemplate Phase 2. As I've said before, it's a race to vaccinate the last person and not the first.
Miller says nationally, about 25% of the adult Indigenous population has been vaccinated. That's about 6 times the rate for the rest of the country.
Well, have a look at this weather on the West Coast. Some heavy snow for sure. Plenty of digging out to do in Corner Brook earlier today. The city very much looking like a winter wonderland, Ashley.
Yeah, it certainly was. Some areas through Central as well. That was the story today. Last night it was in eastern Newfoundland before that changed all over to some freezing rain today. That area of low pressure that's responsible for that has moved offshore now. We are seeing some onshore flurries though for the west coast and some lingering flurry activity pushing through eastern areas of the island as we speak. The other thing to note with this was the winds. The winds really ramped up earlier today, topped out at 96 kilometers per hour for St. John's. Other areas across the province, Wreck House 130 kilometers per hour, but otherwise looking at between 40 and 70 kilometers per hour. Now the good news is these winds are going to generally ease as we head through the overnight tonight. It's going to stay a little bit breezy, 40 to 50 kilometers per hour overnight. Tomorrow is going to stay breezy as well, but we're finally going to see some relief from this wind as we head through Friday. Things are going to quiet down as well, but I'll break all that down for you coming up.
Well, a late Friday night move to Alert Level 5 left a lot of parents scrambling to find daycare for their kids. The province now has a plan for the children of essential workers, but as Cease Hair reports, one daycare owner says a simple fix would have made the transition a whole lot less frantic.
Last March, when the province went into lockdown, daycares were shut down, leaving many in a lurch. But this time, daycares are open for the children of existing clients who are essential workers that have to leave home and report to their workplace. School-age kids who normally attend after school can now go full day. And while children will be able to bring their school devices, the centers won't be responsible for online learning.
This may not be practical, as services may have children from various grades and from various different schools. Childcare services may not necessarily be equipped or set up to support public Wi-Fi, nor are they equipped to assist students in using their own individual devices, troubleshooting technical issues, or logging into Google Classroom.
Regulated daycares under the grant program will also get funding regardless of attendance, and parents will not lose their space if they don't send their children. Another big difference this time around, there's no limit on capacity.
We don't know how many of the children are of parents of essential workers that must report to the workplace. By that very nature, we anticipate that the numbers would be significantly lower than 70%.
Lack of communication or non-communication causes fear in people.
Rhonda Lono owns Active Time Preschool and Daycare in Conception Bay South. She applauds the update on capacity, after-school programs, COVID protocols, and the news on funding. But she says getting an update late Sunday night on the daycare plan was pushing it.
I mean, I'll be honest, I was worried Sunday night what was going to happen. Are they going to shut us down again? Are they going to pay for our spaces? What do I tell my families this evening? You know, and that causes fear for everybody.
Lono says a solution would be to invite a representative or two from their industry to sit at the table within the department to allow for feedback and the dissemination of information. Cease here, CBC News, St. John's.
The man in in charge of the provincial election says his office is still working on a plan for Indigenous voters in Labrador. Not everyone in the region uses English as their first language. Bruce Chalk says his office is also working on a plan for people in isolation. Elections Canada is stepping in to help with the onslaught of phone calls. Chalk says they did not anticipate a mass resignation of staff.
Nobody can prepare for your staff to resign en masse. And if you lose 80% of your staff, you cannot recover 2 days before an election. That is just impossible. That's reality. But it was always anticipated that this election would have in-person voting at the end of the day. And, we were only basically a couple of days away from, at the cases now that started popping up, we certainly would have been able to, we would have had that concluded by that time.
Now, one city is taking clues from the provincial election. Corner Brook is in lockdown this week following the public health guidelines. For the mayor, the next municipal election and safety is already top of mind. Here now is Colleen Connors has more from the West Coast.
City Hall is really quiet today. Only a couple of people are inside the building. Most are working from home. Members of the public can't access the fire hall, water treatment plant, the Civic Center ice rinks, or walking track. The mayor says it feels like it did back in March.
It's stressful for our residents and for our staff as well. And we want to make sure, of course, that we do everything we can to avoid a situation like we're seeing in the Avalon right now.
Parsons says there are more online services than ever before, from dog tags to property taxes. Given that it's tax season, the mayor says people can still pay by check and drop it in this bright red mailbox in the city parking lot. With safety at the forefront, the mayor is already considering the next municipal election for the end of September.
We're looking at other ways to allow people to vote besides in person, and that includes mail-in balloting.
Parsons says he's watching to see how the province handles its mail-in ballot process and thinks there are even more options to explore.
We're hopeful, of course, that we'll see some provincial government changes to our legislation, the Municipal Elections Act, because I think there's opportunities to innovate, have more advanced polls, electronic voting potentially. There's a lot of options out there now.
Council gave staff the go-ahead to pursue this mail-in option bylaw. Soon there will be public consultations and then council will vote on it.
Parsons says the public will know more about being able to vote by mail in the next municipal election sometime this spring. For now, staff is focused on this current lockdown and keeping everybody safe. Colleen Connors, CBC News, Corner Brook.
So in-person voting has been canceled in this provincial election. So what will casting your ballot look like this time? Well, if you haven't already voted by special ballot or in the advanced polls, the first thing you'll need is your voting kit. Now, you'll need that before Friday, February 19th at 8 p.m. Newfoundland time, 7:30 in most of Labrador. So you have two ways to apply for your voting kit. You can do it online on your smartphone, your tablet, or your desktop computer, or you can call a toll-free number. So if you prefer online, just go to the Elections NL website at elections.gov.nl.ca. Now this page will walk you through the whole process. You scroll down to apply for a special ballot online. You type in your information, your name, address, and so on. So you will need proof of identity to vote this way, and there are a couple of options here. One is you can use your driver's license. You can just take a photo of it and then email it to yourself, download it onto your desktop, and then upload it onto the Elections NL website. And if you don't have a driver's license or a photo ID, then there are other options for you. You'll need 2 pieces of ID. Only one needs to have your name and address. It can be a utility bill, your MCP card. It could even be a prescription pill bottle label. There's a long list available on the website. And if you don't have any ID, there's also an option to use a guarantor. So you just need someone who has an ID to vouch for you. So if you prefer to apply by phone, Elections NL has 3 numbers for you to call, local and toll-free. All you need to do is give them your name, your address, and your date of birth, and your voting kit will be sent to you. So what will your voting kit look like? Well, let's see. You get a special return ballot envelope, a blue declaration envelope, there's a green ballot envelope, and there is your ballot itself. Plus, you get a list of all of the candidates in all of the districts and a set of instructions on how to cast your ballot. So normally when you vote, you mark an X next to the candidate of your choice, but this time you need to actually write in the name of the candidate you're voting for. So you write on the name and then you take the ballot and you put it back in the green envelope. You seal that, and then you take the green envelope and you put it in the blue envelope. Seal that, put your information on there, including the name of your district, and then you take the blue envelope and you put it into the special ballot return envelope. So the deadline for Elections NL to receive your special ballot is March 5th at 8 p.m., but you'll want to get this in the mail as soon as possible because it could take a few days for it to actually get there. So take this envelope, put it in the mail, and then you've played your part in democracy.
I was always very passionate about my burns, so I never really let people put me down about my burns.
He got caught in a house fire on Bell Island when he was just 5 years old. We're catching back up with Kyle Hines as part of our special series, This Is My Story.
Well, Ashley, it was a messy old day out there, but before we get to the weather, we have a video to show everyone at home from northern Labrador. Just have a look at this. DFO recently donated samples of cold water coral and sea sponges to the Museum of Nature in Ottawa. Canada plays a role in protecting coral and sponges. Those are home to fish and other deep sea life.
Yeah, and that video was taken by DFO just off the coast of Nunavut. So it's certainly cold under the water, but not nearly as cold as it is above the water today, certainly up through portions of Labrador. Let's take a look at those temperatures. Around -14 for Nain today. Those temperatures a little bit warmer as you head towards southeastern portions, -7 in Cartwright. That's about a couple of degrees warmer than what we should be sitting at this time of year. And then temperatures topped out in eastern Newfoundland and St. John's at 4 degrees today, but they have since dropped into the afternoon. Currently sitting around 0 degrees, and those temperatures are going to continue to drop as we head through the overnight. Now, we are still looking at, because of those that temperature drop, we're looking at the potential for flurries for most as we head through the overnight tonight. By midnight, coastal Labrador, you should see your flurries end, and then actually going to see some clearing skies towards the west, though. You're still looking at a few more centimeters overnight tonight. Those onshore flurries continue for western areas of the island, and then as we head into the early morning hours, we should actually see a fairly nice start to the day with some sunshine. But as far as those snowfall totals go, probably another 2, maybe 5 centimeters of snow overnight tonight, and those higher elevations could see closer to 5 to 10. The flurries are generally going to continue as we head through the overnight, through the day tomorrow, bringing accumulations up in those higher elevations to nearly maybe 10 to as much as 15 centimeters of snow. So overnight tonight, looking at temperatures dipping, like I said, continuing to drop into the mid-minus single digits. The winds will stay breezy, 30 to 50 kilometers per hour, generally out of the west or west-northwest. And lower lying areas, you'll see down to about minus double digits, same for the northern peninsula, and then into the -20s for most of Labrador. Taking a look at tomorrow's future tracker, again, the onshore flurry activity will continue. We're looking at generally periods of sun and cloud through the day, scattered flurries here and there. More flurry activity, though, for the west coast and along the northeastern areas of the island as we head through the day. Plenty of sunshine. The story for Labrador as a ridge of high pressure dominates your weather, and then we're going to start to see that for the northern peninsula as well into the afternoon. So plenty of sunshine in store. Temperatures into the minus single digits, minus double digits for northern and western Labrador, and then temperatures into the minus single digits. So not moving too much from where you're going to be sitting overnight, with those winds generally, again, out of the west, west-northwest, somewhere between 40 to 60 kilometers per hour. Now, as we head into Friday, things quiet down. That ridge of high pressure starts to sort of dominate the weather for the island, so it should still be a mix of sun and cloud, but we're looking at the potential for some flurries. As we head into Saturday, this is when we're looking at the next weather maker. Now, models are pulling it a little bit further offshore, so it doesn't look like it'll be a significant weather maker, but we'll more than likely see some flurries or light snow with this one. Definitely something that I will be keeping an eye on over the next couple of days. But overall, like I said, temperatures not moving too much, within a degree or two, around mid-minus single digits for the island, and then minus double digits the story for Labrador, with plenty of sunshine continuing through Friday, and then into Saturday, much of the same story. But again, eastern areas keeping that potential for some snow in for you. As you head towards central and the west, you're looking at a mix of sun and cloud or more cloudy periods with temperatures into the minus single digits. After that, again, -4, -5 is our daytime highs as we head into Monday for St. John's and Eastern Newfoundland. However, it does look like by midweek next week, we're going to see another warm up above zero into probably Tuesday night into Wednesday. Certainly something that I'm also keeping an eye on. For Central Newfoundland, you're looking at nice temperatures, or nice sunshine rather, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. A few flurries in the mix. By Monday, we're looking back to return of that sunshine, and temperatures slowly climbing as you head towards Monday, but overnight lows still into the minus double digits. For Western Newfoundland, generally cloudy with the potential for onshore flurries essentially through Monday, within -5 to -8 as the daytime highs, and then overnight lows will start to climb up as well as we head towards Monday. For Eastern Labrador, we're looking at sunshine, maybe a few flurries on Sunday, but overall a pretty nice forecast with temperatures climbing as we head towards Sunday and Monday. And then for Western Labrador, you're looking at a fairly nice stretch of weather with flurries moving in for Monday. I wanted to share this photo of a sunrise snowshoe in Salvage. This is the Roundhead Lookout. Thank you to Karen for sharing that with us. And if you have any weather photos, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Well, some students in Sheshatshiu are on the hunt for a piece of their own history. They've been learning to set snares for rabbits this winter. It's part of an Innu Studies course that aims to connect students with their heritage and their community. Here and now tagged along with the class as they set some snares last week. Take a look.
We're going out and the kids are going to look for rabbit runs and they're going to set up their own snares. The majority of the kids had never set a rabbit snare, for example, in their lives. As soon as you do it before.
I think these are the feet. Like two of them, see them?
Okay. Miss, I don't know how to tie it on.
You can do it, just wrap it around. The course is designed to bring the Innu culture into the school and to take the school, the students, out onto the land. They learn a lot about cultural identity, you know, like what makes them Innu. And it also brings in community members to help the students and teach the students knowledge from, you know, their own culture.
So you put the boughs around it so you get the rabbit to go where you want it to go.
You good with where you gotten? So in the 2-week run, you're usually guaranteed at least one rabbit.
I didn't want to hold it. I passed it to the teacher or one of my friends. I was freaking out because they said it was like moving. So I looked at it and I thought it was moving, but it was actually me shaking. So I passed it to my friends. It freaked me out. I don't want to, like, it's fun snaring, but holding that rabbit is scary.
Why do I do this? That's right.
After the snaring, we're going to go back to class and we're going to have to set up a tent, set up a pot, and we're going to have to like clean it and cook the rabbit, learn. We're going to have someone come in. I'm quite terrified, actually. It's going to be gross, really gross.
Well, I hope that they understand that their culture is still very much alive and that they can take what they're learning and they can learn further. To see them when they watch you do it and then they set their own and actually catch rabbits, oh, the excitement in them is amazing. It's something that you can't even describe. You can't. It's just, you'd had to be there.
Welcome back. Our special Here and Now series, This Is My Story, is back for a new season.
The series gives us a chance to check in with people who've gone through some major life challenges to see where they are today. Tonight, we start with Kyle Hines.
Now, Kyle was badly burned in a house fire on Bell Island when he was just 5 years old. Here and Now has spoken with Kyle and his dad over the years throughout his recovery. Here they are after returning home from Kyle's 9th surgery.
He did a skin graft on his leg, took the skin off here and put on his shoulders. I'll do anything for him, get him back to shape. And well, from pictures I'm after seeing him, well, the picture right there, look, first time when he come home. And look at him now, it's unreal. He said to me, he said, Daddy, he said, I'm Superman, he said.
Wow, that was Kyle Hines and his father Patrick when Kyle was just 9 years old.
And here's what life is like for Kyle today.
4 children escaped this disaster without injury.
I was in the house, sleeping upstairs.
But another wasn't so lucky.
I couldn't get down the stairs because the fire started from there.
The boy was afraid to jump.
I kind of stick by the window and cradle myself there.
But at least they're all alive.
My dad did come up to the 2nd floor and pulled me out.
Kyle Hines was burned nearly beyond recognition.
Hi, my name is Kyle. I'm the burn survivor for 22 years, and this is my story. I can't remember much, but I do remember my Aunt Aggie when I was in the ambulance, trying to keep me alert to make sure I don't go unconscious right away.
You're gonna go feet first, guys.
I don't remember much of the pain either, I guess, of having the burn so deep and removing most of my skin and tissue.
1, 2, 3.
And then after that day of the fire, I didn't notice anything until I woke up in Boston, where I had most of my treatments. I remember having all my head bandaged up, all my body was just covered in bandages, and I didn't know what really happened, but being so young that I wasn't afraid, it was almost felt normal to be where I was at that time. So for a little 3 to 4 months, I was able to learn how to re-walk and talk and use my arms and hands again, and lots of therapy. I was always a fighter even before my accident, so me and my dad made a deal that if I continue to learn how to walk, he would quit smoking. So I won that bet, but he didn't keep his promise. But it was a good goal to set. I always wanted to get back where my friends were too, right? So I wanted to be home with my friends. When I did drive back to Newfoundland, they had like a big surprise with all these Shriners and a crazy amount of guests at the airport and at the ferry, and they had a huge party. It was pretty amazing, actually. I was very lucky having living in a small area. Everybody knew everybody. Everybody hung out with each other. That they understood what actually happened. So I never had that bullying or people making fun. People didn't look at me as a burn survivor anymore. They just, it's Kyle, right? From the nurses to my dad, just know that don't matter what happens in life, that he's there to support me was just huge. I feel so grateful to have him to be that person who could handle all of that, I guess. Yeah, I appreciate everything. It makes things easier for sure when you do have someone behind your back to help you every step on the way. Atlantic Burn Camp is incredible. I I think I was 7 years old when I started, so I was very excited. But the camp had just an amazing platform for burn survivors to go there and be around people who's the same, really. You don't have people steering. You don't have people asking you questions. It's just a bunch of fun. Go there, spend time with your other burn survivors, and the games, the activities they had, the outings, it made you feel like you were the king of the week kind of thing. And you never even thought about your burns. It was just completely off our minds.
Kyle was probably about 10 when I met him. It was just this adorable little boy who came up to me with these piercing blue eyes. And Kyle was just older than his years. I mean, I just loved this kid right away. And we became, honestly, as a counselor and a camper, pretty much fast friends. I was just drawn to him. He was an old soul, even then, and just one of the sweetest people I've ever met until this day. I've just followed him through the years, and I'm just watching him grow and develop and evolve every year. It's been quite a journey. I am so proud of him. But as I look back, that was Kyle. There were no limitations. It's that spirit and that determination that has pushed Kyle through a most horrible accident and to where he is today.
Going back, it's just, I don't know what I would do differently or where I would be if I didn't have this accident really happening to me, because of all the amazing people that really supported me through this whole journey. Back in the day when I was in high school, my goal was to be a pilot. Just couldn't be because of medical purposes. I always wanted more in life. One day I packed up and said, I'm going to go for it. Moved to Calgary for work, and now I'm working full-time with LR Helicopters. I do a little bit of everything, so I work with customers, students, with the staff, engineer team, running tours, anything that we can do with a helicopter. I can help a client to help them with that service, and from signing up new students to follow their dreams as a pilot. Now I found a way to follow my dream and be in the industry and help others follow their dreams. If you set goals, you can make anything happen in this world.
Wow, what an inspirational story, and what he was able to take away from that.
Yeah, it's so nice to see him doing so well after all this time.
We're going to have another episode of This Is My Story coming up in 2 weeks.
And this time, it's a follow-up with Shane Burridge. It's an RCMP officer who was on dialysis for years while waiting for a kidney transplant.
Welcome back to Here and Now. Rapid testing is one way to flag COVID cases as quickly as possible. Central Health opened up a rapid testing facility in Grand Falls, Windsor today. That's for anyone who's traveled to the St. John's area this month, as well as staff or students at the local schools. Similarly, a clinic is being set up at the Valley Mall in Corner Brook. Labrador is doing testing as well. And the focus is on asymptomatic people who traveled to the St. John's area or are in high school. Well, today, Dr. Janice Fitzgerald discussed the benefits of rapid testing, but she also explained some of the pitfalls.
We're using the rapid test to try to find cases as quickly as we can. You know, they do allow us to identify positive cases, you know, within a half an hour or so. And we have certainly in our experience through using them at the Mount Pearl site, we found that, you know, we had a great, we didn't have a high false positive, I guess I'll put it that way. So all of the positives that we identified through the rapid testing went on to be confirmed as positive in the PCR testing. So through that, you know, we decided we need to use it in some other settings. With everything that was happening initially in the Mount Pearl site, you know, there were just some logistical considerations that had to happen there. And so we then have moved some of that testing to other sites just to make it easier. And now we're using them again. So it has been going well. We are finding those positive cases very quickly. The downside with the rapid testing, of course, is that it does have a higher false negative rate. So that's why everybody who has a test has to continue to isolate until they get their test result back and that it's confirmed a negative by PCR. We have had some of the people who, you know, we have had some of the tests, I should say, that were negative on the rapid antigen testing that then went on to be positive later with testing. So it's that's why it's so important that people stay isolated until they get a negative test result back.
There was a small rally today outside an Alberta food processing plant that's being closed because of a COVID-19 outbreak. More than 300 workers at the Alamel plant in Red Deer have tested positive for the disease. This morning's rally was staged by the Workers' Union and the Alberta Federation of Labor.
We want to make sure that employers are on notice and that the province is on notice, that we expect them to do more to keep workers safe in facilities like this and in other facilities across the province as we face the prospect of new variants of COVID and a possible third wave.
The death of an employee has been linked to the outbreak, and the union says workers have been advocating for the closure. Quebec-based Alamel is shutting down voluntarily. Provincial agencies in Alberta had given the company the okay to keep operating. CBC's Aaron Collins has the details.
Outside the Alamel plant in Red Deer, a sign boasts the facility and its 1,800 workers help feed the world. But a spike in COVID-19 cases here has changed that. The company announced late Monday it was temporarily shuttering the pork processing facility. More than 300 workers there have now tested positive for COVID-19. One man in his 30s has died, a death that has shaken his co-workers.
Some of them are scared to work because, you know, they worry about their health, they worry about their family and stuff like that.
This employee, whose identity we've agreed to protect, worked in the same area as the man who died last month. As a close contact, they were told by the company to get tested for COVID-19, but they say they weren't told to isolate at home.
If we're going to get tested and we haven't received the result yet, are we still coming to work while waiting for the result? And she said yes, because you guys need money.
While waiting for those results, they worked a second job at a group home for people with disabilities, raising concerns of spread outside the plant, a common worry for lower-income workers during this pandemic.
People who are moving to multiple employers are only doing so because they can't afford to put food on the table without doing that.
There are now outbreaks at 8 meat processing plants in Alberta, and the union that represents workers at Alamel says the province should have closed the plant sooner.
We have a deep concern about a third wave
And we need to protect workers in workplaces. Our members in that plant are grieving, and they're horrified and they're terrified.
All this as cases of COVID variants continue to rise in Alberta.
I know that many Albertans are concerned about these variants, and I am too. I am particularly concerned about the growing number of cases not linked to travel.
The province says it inspected the Allumel plant 14 times since mid-November. But even as cases of COVID-19 surged in the new year, it was allowed to stay open. Aaron Collins, CBC News, Calgary.
We patrol the winter moose hunt with legendary wildlife officer Earl Pilgrim.
Yes, sir.
The Pilgrim Patrol, an archival special. Sunday at noon and Monday at 7.
Well, some news for royal watchers. Prince Philip has been admitted to hospital in London after feeling unwell. The 99-year-old husband of the Queen was admitted last evening on the advice from his doctor. It's being called a precautionary measure. Buckingham Palace says the Duke of Edinburgh is expected to remain in hospital for a few days of observation and rest. His illness is not related to COVID-19. The Queen and Prince Philip were vaccinated in early January. Prince Philip retired from public duties in 2017 and only makes rare appearances.
While Prince Philip doesn't have COVID-19, there are 338 people in this province who do. And as you may remember from last week, musician and Progressive Conservative candidate Damien Follett is one of them. He announced his positive test result on Friday, saying he'd be isolating with his family.
Yes, his friends and fellow musicians are trying to cheer him up now. So they uploaded a song online last night. So we thought we'd leave you with that tonight. Here's their version of Carole King's You've Got a Friend. Good night.
Good night.
When you're down and troubled and you need a helping hand, and nothing is going right. Close your eyes and think of me, and soon I will be there. Just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running just to see you again. Winter, spring, summer,